Imagine a small island nation with virtually no natural resources, no significant landmass, and no water supply of its own. In 1965, when Singapore was forced to separate from Malaysia, few believed it would survive, let alone thrive. And yet today, Singapore stands as one of the wealthiest and most advanced countries in the world. With a GDP per capita of over $80,000, Singapore consistently ranks among the top in global wealth, ease of doing business, education, and quality of life indexes. It is a global financial centre, a shipping and aviation hub, and home to some of the world's most successful multinational corporations. How did this transformation happen in just a few decades? The story of Singapore's rise is not one of luck or natural abundance. It's a story of visionary leadership, strategic geographic leverage, clean and efficient governance, and uncompromising focus on economic development. From a struggling post-colonial outpost to a high-tech, knowledge-based economy, Singapore's journey is both inspiring and instructive. In this video, we'll break down the key factors behind Singapore's meteoric rise and explore how a country with nothing managed to build everything. To understand Singapore's incredible rise, we must start with its colonial past. In 1819, British statesman Sir Stamford Raffles established Singapore as a trading post of the British East India Company. Its location, right at the crossroads of major sea routes between India and China, made it a perfect deep-water port. Over time, Singapore became a bustling hub for global maritime trade, drawing merchants, migrants, and workers from across Asia. However, its strategic position also made it a target. During World War II, Singapore was invaded and occupied by Japan in 1942. The brutal occupation lasted for over 3 years, bringing hardship and fear to its people. When the British returned after the war, their image as protectors had been deeply damaged. In 1959, Singapore gained partial self-governance. Then in 1963, it joined the Federation of Malaysia in hopes of gaining political stability and economic strength. But the merger was short-lived. Tensions over race, politics, and economics quickly escalated. On August 9, 1965, Singapore was expelled from Malaysia and forced to become an independent nation. At that moment, Singapore was a vulnerable island with no natural resources, no army, and high unemployment. Many believed it would fail. But Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew, the founding father of modern Singapore, refused to accept defeat. He saw that Singapore's survival depended on building a strong economy. His strategy was simple yet bold: attract foreign investment, create jobs, and turn Singapore into a global trading and financial hub. This vision would shape every policy decision that followed. From housing to education, defense to diplomacy, everything was aligned with the goal of economic survival and prosperity. What came next would change not only Singapore's future, but redefine what a small country could achieve. Singapore's geography is a story of limitations turned into opportunities. At first glance, the island had very little going for it. It lacked natural resources, no oil, no gas, no precious metals. Even basic needs like fresh water had to be imported from neighbouring Malaysia. Its land area was small, and most of it was unsuitable for agriculture. With limited space and no raw materials, traditional paths to economic development seemed out of reach. But what Singapore did have was location, and that changed everything. Sitting along the Strait of Malacca, one of the busiest and most important shipping lanes in the world, Singapore was perfectly positioned to become a major port. Nearly a third of the world's shipping passes through this narrow stretch of water, linking the Pacific and Indian Oceans. Recognizing this advantage, Singapore invested heavily in port infrastructure and logistics. It built one of the most efficient and busiest ports in the world, turning the island into a global transshipment hub. Today, Singapore's port is among the top 5 busiest globally, handling millions of containers each year. The country didn't just rely on its location, it enhanced it with excellent infrastructure, customs efficiency, and global connectivity. This allowed Singapore to serve as a gateway between East and West, and later, a base for multinational corporations. In short, Singapore turned a geographic challenge into an economic engine, demonstrating that strategic thinking can turn disadvantages into strengths. One of the most defining features of Singapore's rise is its political stability and clean, efficient governance, a rarity among newly independent nations in the mid-20th century. From the beginning, Lee Kuan Yew and his ruling party, the People's Action Party, PAP, believed that economic progress required firm control and long-term planning. Singapore was not a liberal democracy in the Western sense. It was authoritarian in approach, but pragmatic in vision. Political dissent was limited, and opposition was kept in check. However, this centralization of power also allowed for swift, decisive action in policymaking and implementation. Lee Kuan Yew's leadership was characterized by discipline, zero tolerance for corruption, and a relentless focus on results. He famously said that the key to good governance is not popularity, but competence and integrity. To build a strong foundation, he created a merit-based civil service, offering competitive salaries to attract top talent and prevent bribery or incompetence. This commitment to clean governance paid off. Singapore consistently ranks among the least corrupt countries in the world, on par with nations like Denmark and Switzerland. Public institutions operate with high levels of transparency and efficiency. Equally important is the rule of law. Singapore maintains strict laws, a predictable legal system, and a robust regulatory environment. This has created a sense of security for businesses and investors. Contracts are enforced, property is protected, and the judiciary is independent. Together, these elements established a stable environment in which businesses could thrive, attracting foreign investment and encouraging local entrepreneurship. Investors knew that in Singapore, their money was safe and their contracts would be honored. This rare combination of strong leadership, clean governance, and legal order became one of the most important pillars of Singapore's economic miracle. In the early years of independence, Singapore had few options. It could not rely on natural resources, agriculture, or a large domestic market. So, it had to think differently, and it did. Initially, Singapore tried import substitution, like many developing countries. This meant producing goods locally instead of importing them. But that strategy quickly proved unsustainable due to the country's small size and limited consumer base. Singapore pivoted to a new path: export-oriented industrialization. The goal was to make products for the world, not just for local consumption. Under the leadership of Lee Kuan Yew and his team, Singapore focused on building a robust manufacturing sector. Priority was given to industries that were labor-intensive, but had high global demand, such as electronics, shipbuilding, and petrochemicals. These industries provided jobs for thousands and helped Singapore integrate into global trade networks. To guide this transformation, the government established the Economic Development Board, EDB, in 1961. The EDB became the central agency responsible for planning industrial development and attracting investment. It operated like a business itself, agile, professional, and performance-driven. One of the EDB's biggest successes was attracting foreign direct investment, FDI. Multinational companies were offered generous tax incentives, access to skilled labor, modern infrastructure, and most importantly, political and economic stability. Unlike many other developing nations, Singapore welcomed foreign companies rather than fearing them. Major global firms like HP, Shell, and ExxonMobil set up operations in Singapore, bringing capital, technology, and expertise. Over time, Singapore became a manufacturing powerhouse, especially in semiconductors, precision engineering, and pharmaceuticals. What set Singapore apart was not just that it invited FDI, it ensured a seamless, efficient, and corruption-free experience for investors. Starting a business, getting permits, or importing equipment was faster and smoother than almost anywhere else in Asia. This aggressive, well-planned industrialization laid the economic foundation that would later support Singapore's rise as a global finance and innovation hub. Once Singapore had built a strong manufacturing base, it didn't stop there. The next phase of its growth was even more ambitious, becoming a global financial center. In the 1970s and 1980s, Singapore introduced a series of liberal financial policies designed to attract international banks, insurance firms, and investment houses. At the same time, it maintained tight regulatory control to ensure stability and prevent the kind of volatility seen in less developed markets. The result was a rare combination: a free and open financial market, backed by a strong legal framework and low corruption. This gave international investors and institutions immense confidence. Singapore's government created a sophisticated monetary authority, which kept inflation low and ensured currency stability. The country adopted an efficient, business-friendly tax system and allowed the free movement of capital, making it attractive for companies and wealthy individuals to park and grow their money in the country. The banking sector flourished. International giants like HSBC, Citibank, and Standard Chartered established strong presences in Singapore. Local banks like DBS, UOB, and OCBC also grew rapidly, becoming regional powerhouses. Beyond banking, Singapore developed world-class insurance, reinsurance, and wealth management services. The country became a hub for private banking and asset management, attracting high-net-worth individuals from across Asia and beyond. Singapore also welcomed multinational corporations, MNCs, to set up their regional headquarters. Its strategic location in Southeast Asia, combined with excellent infrastructure, English-speaking talent, and low corporate tax rates, made it the ideal base for doing business across Asia. Today, Singapore is home to over 7,000 multinational companies, many of which manage their Asia-Pacific operations from the island. This has created a dynamic financial ecosystem, linking global capital with Asian markets. The transformation into a financial hub didn't happen by accident. It was the result of careful planning, world-class governance, and a long-term vision to become a center of global finance, innovation, and trust. A key ingredient in Singapore's success story is its world-class infrastructure and visionary urban planning. Despite its small size and land constraints, Singapore built one of the most efficient and modern cities in the world. From the beginning, the government invested heavily in public infrastructure, not just roads and bridges, but an entire ecosystem designed to support a thriving economy and high quality of life. The result is a city-state known for its clean streets, efficient public transport, reliable utilities, and minimal traffic congestion. One of Singapore's greatest achievements is its mass rapid transit MRT system, an extensive, punctual, and affordable rail network that connects every corner of the island. This has significantly reduced reliance on private vehicles and made commuting incredibly smooth for residents and tourists alike. Singapore also boasts Changi Airport, repeatedly ranked among the best airports in the world. It is not just a transit hub, but a symbol of efficiency, luxury, and innovation. Alongside it, Singapore Airlines has become one of the world's top carriers, enhancing the country's reputation for excellence and hospitality. On the maritime side, Singapore's port is a global giant. With advanced automation and smart logistics, it handles millions of containers annually and connects to over 600 ports worldwide. Given limited land, the country turned to land reclamation, expanding its usable space through engineering innovation. It also planned housing meticulously, with the Housing and Development Board, HDB, providing clean, affordable homes for over 80% of the population. Every square metre is utilised efficiently. Parks on rooftops, underground expressways, vertical gardens, and smart city technologies are all part of the plan. This careful attention to detail ensures not just functionality, but sustainability, making Singapore a global model for urban living and infrastructure development. Singapore knew early on that its people were its only natural resource. With no oil or minerals to rely on, the country invested heavily in building a skilled, disciplined, and adaptable workforce through high-quality education and continuous upskilling. The education system was designed to be meritocratic, rigorous, and globally competitive. From the start, Singapore introduced a bilingual policy requiring students to learn English, used in business and administration, and their mother tongue, such as Mandarin, Malay, or Tamil. This not only preserved cultural identity, but also gave Singaporeans a global edge. Special emphasis was placed on STEM education, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, to prepare students for the demands of a modern economy. But Singapore didn't just focus on academic excellence. It also built strong institutions for technical and vocational education, such as polytechnics and institutes of technical education, ITEs. These institutions provided hands-on training in industries like electronics, engineering, and hospitality, producing job-ready graduates. As the economy evolved, so did the workforce. The government launched initiatives to encourage lifelong learning and upskilling, such as the Skills Future program, which gives citizens credits to pursue new skills and training at any stage of life. This forward-thinking approach meant that Singapore's workers stayed productive, adaptable, and ready for new industries, whether it was semiconductors in the 1980s, biotechnology in the 2000s, or digital services today. Multinational companies operating in Singapore consistently praise the quality, discipline, and efficiency of the local workforce. It's not just about education, it's about creating a culture of excellence and continuous improvement. By turning its small population into a high-performing, globally competitive workforce, Singapore proved that human capital can be a more powerful asset than any natural resource. Singapore is a multi-ethnic and multi-religious society, home to Chinese, Malay, Indian, and other minority communities. At the time of independence, this diversity was seen as a potential source of tension, especially after the racial riots of the 1960s. But the Singaporean leadership turned this potential weakness into a pillar of strength. The government introduced firm policies to promote racial harmony and social cohesion. It enforced strict laws against racial or religious incitement, ensuring that hate speech and communal violence were not tolerated under any circumstances. At the same time, integration was actively encouraged. Public housing policies ensured that all ethnic groups were distributed across neighbourhoods, preventing the formation of ethnic enclaves. In schools, students of different races learn together and celebrate each other's festivals, building mutual respect from a young age. One of the key instruments of national unity is national service. Every male citizen, regardless of race or religion, is required to serve in the military or civil defense. This shared experience creates a sense of duty, equality, and collective identity. By managing diversity with fairness, firmness, and long-term vision, Singapore has built one of the most harmonious multi-ethnic societies in the world, laying a strong foundation for its economic and social success. Singapore has never rested on past achievements. As the world moves into the digital age, the nation is positioning itself at the forefront of innovation, technology, and future readiness. A key step was the launch of the Smart Nation Initiative in 2014. This ambitious program aims to harness technology to transform the way people live, work, and interact. From smart traffic systems and digital government services to cashless payments and sensor-driven urban planning, Singapore is turning into one of the most connected and tech-driven cities in the world. The government has also made massive investments in research and development, R&D. Institutions like A*STAR, Agency for Science, Technology and Research, support advanced research in fields like biotech, nanotech, and AI. Singapore is creating fertile ground for innovation through grants, tax incentives, and partnerships with global tech firms. To support entrepreneurship, the country has cultivated a thriving startup ecosystem. Initiatives like Startup SG and various tech incubators have attracted local and international talent to build companies in fintech, health tech, and green energy. Digital infrastructure is a national priority. With nationwide high-speed internet, a secure cloud environment, and robust data protection laws, Singapore ensures that its digital economy remains reliable and globally competitive. In critical sectors like cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, and biotechnology, Singapore aims to lead, not just keep up. It is training future-ready professionals and adapting its policies to support emerging industries. In a world driven by innovation, Singapore is ensuring it's not just ready for the future, it's helping shape it. Despite its remarkable success, Singapore is not without criticism and challenges. One of the most frequently cited issues is its authoritarian style of governance. The ruling People's Action Party, PAP, has been in power since independence, and political opposition remains weak. Strict laws limit protests, curb press freedom, and regulate speech, raising concerns about political liberties and human rights. Another growing concern is the high cost of living. While the country is wealthy, everyday expenses like housing, healthcare, and education can be burdensome, especially for the lower and middle classes. Income inequality is a real issue, with a noticeable gap between the top earners and the working poor. Singapore also relies heavily on foreign labour, particularly in construction, domestic work, and other low-paying sectors. While this supports economic growth, it has also sparked debates around social integration, job competition, and labour rights. These challenges do not erase Singapore's achievements, but they highlight the complex balance the country must maintain between growth, control, and fairness. As it looks to the future, Singapore must continue evolving to address these concerns while protecting the gains it has made. Singapore's rise from a struggling island nation to one of the richest and most advanced societies in the world is nothing short of extraordinary. It was not just luck or geography. It was the result of visionary leadership, strict governance, and a relentless focus on long-term planning. From port development and financial liberalization to education and smart technology, Singapore moved with clarity and purpose. Clean governance, rule of law, and a merit-based civil service helped build investor confidence. Investment in infrastructure, education, and social harmony ensured that growth was sustainable and inclusive. Despite its size and lack of resources, Singapore turned its geographic limitations into strategic strengths. It positioned itself as a trusted hub for global trade, finance, and innovation. For small nations and developing countries, Singapore offers a powerful lesson. Success is not about what you have, it's about what you do with what you have. With the right policies, discipline, and adaptability, even the smallest nation can thrive in a competitive world. Singapore is not perfect, but it is a living example of what focused vision, resilience, and integrity can achieve in just a few decades.